How do I even... There's the record button. Let's press it.
Hello and welcome to.
Yes, hello and welcome to. Today is May 10th, 2015, and this is Overgrowth Weekly 96 with Q&A number 12. My name is Lukas.
My name is Anton Real.
And I'm Aubrey, sir.
And today we have no David here, which means that we are going to be having an art-focused episode. So I think that recently it's become kind of a thing we do to talk about what's been going on lately with the actual game and like what's been happening there. So last time David mentioned that he's going away from Unreal again and back to Phoenix after checking it out some more. And I thought we might begin with asking a little bit about that, maybe?
Yeah, sounds good.
So, since you're deciding to stick with Phoenix, it sounded on David like you wanted to still take like a different approach with it, to still do the like horizontal and vertical slice and so on. So does this mean that you're going to be doing something extra with the art as well, or will that be continuing on the same path that it has been?
Well, like, I think that there's less of a need to do like the horizontal vertical slice thing when, I mean, switching to Unreal would have required almost starting over from scratch. And with our current stuff, I mean, I think we both feel that it's very close to complete in a lot of ways. In that, so kind of the approach that I would favor, and I can't speak for David here, is to just kind of start at the start of the game and just kind of do a more of a vertical slice approach where you're just kind of completing everything in order as you go along until everything's complete. So like one of the things that I've been mocking up and working on is like the splash screen, because it's kind of the first part of the user experience. And like I'm not maybe the smartest dude in the universe, so it's very easy for me to understand that, right? Where I'm just like, let's start with the very first thing, and then once that's done, we can do the second thing. That makes a lot of sense to me.
Cool. So you actually sent some images before the show of the start screen, or the main menu, I suppose.
Yeah.
Maybe we could show them a little bit.
Let's check that out.
And there we go. So here's a still image. This is so. What is this? Is this? I guess this isn't final, right? This is just mock-up.
No, it's definitely a work in progress. Although I think some of the art is pretty close to final. Like, I think that this would just be one of several possible splash screens that you get when you start the game. But yeah, it's like the rocks and stuff. I'm pretty happy with them. I'm starting to get an echo here.
Okay, sound is actually back now. I disabled audio in 2 places. I re-enabled it in 1 place, and now we have audio. So that's great. Like no audio for like 3 or 4 minutes.
And it was great conversation too, man.
Yeah, it was. Just imagine like it being super good conversation about art, basically, and you know.
I'll try to sum it up. Basically, what I was saying is that Anton was asking about the colors specifically, and whether that kind of the vibe that you get from this splash screen is going to appear in the game. And I was responding saying that I looked at a bunch of romantic era art because they have a bunch of landscapes and kind of mixed and matched and then added colors. And the whole point of it is kind of, yeah, it has all the colors. It has really high contrast, and that I don't feel like I could push the image any further. And that's kind of the point, right? Like to take it as far as it can go. So yeah, I think that that's kind of like once that's done and I feel confident about that art for the splash screen, then I can worry about like, well, the next thing would be like the transition to the next menu. Then I can worry about the next menu, and then once you select whatever your character or whatever, then I can worry about the transition into the gameplay. And then once we're into the gameplay, then I can worry about boosting the color and contrast in gameplay while still keeping it readable. But I think that I have a lot of control over how much color to put into the game. Like a lot of it's very naturalistic right now, but I can definitely boost the color in the game. And we can always do like post-process also, or color grading. That stuff is well within the realm of the current shader system that we have, full screen shader system. So
Right. With this particular image, what you're assuming is the main character of the game, or at least a character that you will get to know during the course of the game. He's in a very dark space compared to the sort of city in the distance that he appears to be looking at. Is there any sort of spoiler moment?
There's anything like particularly symbolic about it. It's just compositionally, I think it really works. And also, I think that this particular character, one idea that I had for the main menu is that the character that appears in this scene will be whatever character you played as previously. So it might not even be the same character. It could just like, there will be a character there, but it might be a different character, and they might not be looking into the distance. They might be facing the camera, or they might be taking a nap, something like that. So
I know David has been talking recently about doing sort of save states of characters where you can have specific items and armor attachments and things like that that sort of help uniquely identify the character you're playing. And it seems like if that's the case, it would be fairly simple to call up whatever character was in there last, however they were looking at the last moment, and you immediately are sort of back to where you were even before you start playing. So
yeah, I'm not sure exactly how that's going to mesh with the splash screen, but it might be possible to do something like that. Yeah, I'm not sure. It could be cool. I think that the splash screen will continue to be 2D, so we could definitely read what state the character was, but I think it's more of like just an Easter egg thing. Like one of the design ideas that I think is really important is to communicate to people when you have more stuff to show them, right? And like once people feel like they've seen everything the game has to offer, you've kind of failed them as a designer, right? Like unless they're watching the end credits, right? Like once they've reached the end credits of the game, then it's okay to not have anything left to show them. But until then, you owe it to people to show them new things more or less every time they play. So switching out elements on the splash screen or the character is just one way of doing that, because I think that's one way in which almost every game splash screen fails, is that it's the same every time, and that's boring.
Right.
I don't know why they would do that. That just seems like a fundamental mistake, and yet it's a mistake every game makes.
I've only noticed it once before, which was in Spec Ops: The Line. As you go, when you first start, your character is pretty buff, and there's like an American flag waving in the background. And as you go through the game, and I don't want to put too much of a spoiler on the game, but basically your character's story is very self-destructive, and every time you pause and come back, the splash screen has changed a lot. The American flag gets more and more sort of tattered and destroyed, and your character looks more beaten and bruised. And I didn't even notice it the first few times I played, because it was always such a change based on like everything. all of the elements were always still there, but it definitely, I noticed it like the third or fourth time that I played. I was like, huh, this really feels in that dark place where I was feeling the last time I left off.
Right.
So, yeah. So that, I mean, I guess that's an example of a place where I think they did it well.
Right. Well, a lot of people like that game too. So like those kind of details make a big difference.
Right.
So yeah, I don't think we're going to like kind of do anything totally mind-blowing in terms of just the initial, you know, splash screen for the game. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of obvious ways in which we can make it cool.
Right.
So we have a question from Sehiro on the forums who asks, would you be willing to follow the example of Bloodborne with loading screens and put lore facts along with your logo? Like, are the loading screens going to be the Wolfire logo, or will you switch those out to art even maybe?
Seems like the loading screens should be different every time too, and putting some kind of lore or information on them, or at least some kind of art for people to look at, is like the least you can do.
Right.
So yeah, I think like those kinds of issues, right? Like that's the stuff that I'm personally excited to work on, because it's obvious how to make it cool, and it's not very hard to do, and the game doesn't really have that stuff yet. So, so yeah, we'll see how it goes. But for right now, yeah, I personally would like to work on that stuff.
Sweet. So you talked before the show about that you had been to Rome and at a Coliseum there.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to go and actually be in the spaces that the game is supposed to take place in. I mean, like, if you've been following the blog, you know that there's a like we take drawing inspiration from reality very seriously. I mean, like, I think if you play the game at all, you realize that the combat is at least grounded in reality, even if it's kind of taken to the next level and not so much inspired by other video games. So just getting a chance to go and visit those places where they actually did those kinds of things, I think is really cool, and gives you like me personally, gives me like a better sense of what like more primitive technology could actually build, which is pretty impressive. I mean, as impressive as anything people are building today, basically.
Yeah.
So, like, are there any specific parts that you noticed that you were like, oh, I gotta have that in there, or something like that?
One of the things that's just super impressive is how big the stands are in the arena. I mean, like, an arena design is, in essence, very simple. It's just you have like an oval or a circle or a square, and then you have a lot of bleachers. But just the scale of the bleachers and how many people can sit up there, that seemed like a lot bigger deal when you're in the actual space.
Okay.
I've not like been down on the floor of an arena and looking up at the bleachers. Like, usually you have the opposite experience as a viewer. You're in the bleachers looking down at the, at the ground level where
Right.
the people are. And so, but yeah, I was just paying more attention to the bleachers and how things were built. And yeah, the vast majority of the construction is where people watch from.
I've experienced that feeling that you're talking about as well, even on like large theater spaces.
As I was going to ask, when a few years ago you had used the Blender a little bit, I remember, and you didn't really like it. because as I remember, you didn't like, you thought it wasn't very intuitive, which it isn't. Like when you now have used it a little bit more, how do you feel about it?
I feel like there's still a few really obviously bad things about Blender, but almost all of those things are the very first things that you encounter when working with it. And once you get past that, all of the tools actually work pretty well. So yeah, it was definitely difficult to get past that that first, I don't know, I would say downright hostile design decisions. But yeah, the tools work fine. The tools are getting better all the time. Like one of the things that's changed is just Blender has changed. It's gotten better. And some of the stuff I did get used to, I think it's still, some of that stuff is bad, but not like obviously wrong. But yeah, there's still a lot of room for improvement for Blender. There's a few things that still, I think, are just a total mystery why they're so bad, or what kind of thought process went into deciding to do it that way. So like, for example, like Control S brings up a menu that has one choice in it instead of just saving your current file. Like delete doesn't delete what you have selected. It brings up a menu that asks you if you want to delete things you don't have selected. Now, it's just wrong. Terrible design. It's just, there's no possible argument in favor of that kind of design, in my opinion. Like, it's like a text editor where you select the text, hit delete, and then it brings up another window where it's like, yes, but would you like to delete any of the other words that you don't have selected, right? Like, it's just complete nonsense. So, but yeah, I don't really want to complain about Blender because overall I think it's good. Like those problems are kind of trivial, really. Like, yeah, it's annoying. It's annoying every single time you try to delete something, but it's not, doesn't break the software. It's just bad design.
Mm-hmm. Pro tip right there, by the way, use X to delete things instead. It's much faster. Also, the text editor that you're speaking about, Vim, it already exists. It's really hard to use if you don't know what you're doing. Use like U, H, K, and N or something like that, or H, J, K, and L to navigate instead of the arrow keys, for instance, and stuff like that. It's really weird. And then like switch modes and stuff back and forth.
So yeah,
now that you've used it a bit more, do you feel like, is that your 3D application of choice now, or would you actually be wanting to use something else?
Even if I had the choice to go back to 3D Studio Max for free, I don't think I would at this point. And I definitely would not suggest anybody learn 3D Studio Max because, you know, Maya, maybe. I don't know. I don't use Maya. But definitely 3D Studio Max, I think, is just bad and a waste of money. And definitely any time you spend learning it is kind of time wasted because the software is probably not that much longer the way that it is. So.
Yeah, Flipyak in the chat says the argument is that the big corporation owns the patents on the easy methods of user interface. I hope they don't use they don't own the patent for deleting stuff with the delete key, though.
Yeah. Or Control S working properly. Yeah,
yes.
I just don't.
Yeah. I think that's generally considered operating system specific, and so those types of things shouldn't be, like, you should be able to assign a key command to do anything you want in almost any program. So some programs are better about that and other ones aren't, but I know I use a ton of custom key commands in all of my serious software. So
I'm pretty sure nobody owns the patent on left click to select, right? Like it's just bad design, and I don't think there's really any excuse. But yeah, the rest of it works pretty well. Like, I'm not crazy about the windowing. Like, I think the whole windowing paradigm in Blender is kind of bad, but it sort of works, and you can get used to it. I don't hate it as much as I used to. I mean, that's one thing that I can say, yeah, okay. I mean, they have an idea about how Windows should work, and it's fine. I mean, like, it's not a universal thing, windowing. Like, at a certain point, you know, the whole like docking paradigm in Photoshop came along, and it's fine. It's cool to have your own way of doing it.
Nice.
But,
so I think we should probably start wrapping this up. I thought it might be nice as the last thing. Like, do you have any idea of something that you know that you'll finish that will be in the next alpha? Like, what do you think we'll be seeing art-wise there?
next week, I think I'll wrap up the rabbit armor, so that should be cool.
Sweet.
And should we look forward to anything from you in the near future?
Besides rabbit armor,
Meaning like any new videos from you or anything like that?
yeah, I'll probably do that, and then I might work on some arena mock-ups, and I think that's about it for like the next week. Yeah, I should get that stuff done, so I'm pretty excited about it.
Sweet. So yeah, that's that. Thank you so much everyone for watching. I'm sorry for all the technical difficulties we've had today.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yep, but we will see you again in 2 weeks.
Thanks
Bye-bye.
for having me on the show, guys.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you guys later.